And here we are again
Once again.
on a lovely Saturday and or Sunday, depending on which hemisphere you're in.
Yep.
Yeah.
How
Hopefully
was
your
your
day.
week?
Well, busy, busy,
Busy?
busy, crazy. Yes.
Yep.
I've been getting up too early. Well, for me, for a trial, as you know, but
Mm-hmm.
in it was busy because I had to be there, but it was boring AF when it comes to cross exam. Like I have knots on the front of my forehead from hitting the desk repeatedly, like literally.
I can imagine.
Yeah, it's frustrating. And then I had nothing to say. Like you go on break and you're just like you're in a coma. Like the man has
Mm.
actually lulled you and turned your brain to mush because it's just the same question over and over and over and over and over and over. It's like crazy. Well, I
Mm-hmm.
had good company though. I have to say the chat was good company. You know, they help
That's
out.
always good.
Yeah. How about you?
I'm back
How
at
was your
uni.
week?
So
So
I'm
you,
I'm knuckling down again.
mm, so you've been busy yourself. Like, that's a tough schedule. I know.
Yep.
Mm. Well, we did take a break out for you to do some photography, which was really nice.
Yes.
It
Yes.
was kind of cool. Yeah,
It was
you have
fun.
to do that. You have to balance
Mm.
it. Like study crazy, like, but you got to give yourself some, a break, a little bit of stretch of the legs, some fresh air, and do something different. You know,
What's the
for
saying?
me,
Study hard, play harder?
yeah, for me, it actually helps me refocus. It gives me like
Hmm.
yeah, because like we can push too hard. Yeah, mm,
That we
that's not
can.
effective too. Well, here we are, 50th law, talking
Yes.
about life lessons, right? Which
Mm-hmm.
I will admit, this has been a challenge, Rekkr. Like you threw down the gauntlet, and it's been a challenge for me. I've learned
It
something in
certainly
every
has.
chapter. Yeah, I've learned something in every chapter. It's really helped me look at things. It's a good tool for looking at things in a big picture kind of way.
It is, and it's a very it is liberating in a way because it sort of allows you to see how to that sometimes the way that you move is okay. Like like for instance, beautiful segue to this chapter, know when to be bad.
Mm-hmm.
And eh, the title, I mean the title sounds bad. It's like when to be bad. Well, we're always taught never be bad. You should not be bad. Being bad is bad.
Yeah,
That's not.
it's true and not true because at the same time we're taught like always be nice and don't be bad. We're also
Mm,
taught nice guys finish last. Like how
yes.
often do you hear that? Like right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's also I think also it's the way that that term how us being told not to be bad has actually morphed into sort of like this almost like a chastity, you almost like a purity thing. Like if you do anything that might even be considered um immoral by anyone, you're bad, you're absolutely bad. And something that I've learned is that even though there are obvious like lines that you should never cross, um whether we like it or not, morals to some people, morals to a lot of people are a very subjective thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking like social morals. I don't mean like legal morals. Legal morals are an entirely different story. And
Mm-hmm.
that's actually um that actually sort of emphasizes what this chapter talks about, which is the fact that when we hear someone say, you know, this person's being immoral or something, that we instantly have a habit of going to like the worst possible things when it's not necessarily that. There is a, I guess you could, would you say that it's almost like we've created this dark gray area when
I
we hear the
yeah,
word immoral?
I think we have, and I think that it's been concentrated a lot in society and especially in the media. It's like you're always looking for, like, that person that's really really successful, or you're looking at the shiny person, oh, they got everything going for them. And then there's always the takedown, right? There's
Mm,
always, like, there's the preachers, like, that do all these bad things. There's the grifters. There's, like, the CEO who has the dark past, who's into sadomasochistic and makes his assistants do whatever. Like,
yeah,
there's always something, that, like, it's almost like
but
we've got to apply that to them some way, because, like,
and
uh,
yeah, and it's kind of sad because it discredits, for instance, that CEO that has a little bit of a dark past. It discredits the fact that he may have done some
mhm,
fantastic charity stuff, and we
mhm,
use it as a weapon to
exactly.
dismiss the good that
Faulty.
people have done.
I think that, and people do that in general. We do that as a group, like as a societal group in general, to make
Mm,
ourselves feel better. Because
mm,
when you're looking
because
at
we're
people
not
that are more successful than you, or it's something you're aspiring to accomplish and they're already there, you're looking for, like, why
absolutely.
them and why not me? And so it's real easy to do the takedown. It's real easy to forget that, here's the thing, like, we're all human. Ain't nobody all good or all bad. We are a combination of both at all times, 24/7,
Yep.
365 days a week, a year
Mm-hmm.
rather. And you gotta come from that place, and then immoral isn't so gray, right? And then immoral
Exactly.
isn't so all encompassing, because
Mm,
there's the things that we do and there's the things that we are, right? Like,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah. So,
Mm,
I mean, immoral doesn't mean, like, breaking the law. And, listen, there's plenty of people in jail for tax evasion who are the father of five, and they were the coach, and, they volunteered at the food bank, and they, walk old ladies
mm-hmm.
across the street. It's just like,
Mm.
and yet they're in jail for 5 years for tax evasion or something like that. Doesn't make them a creep, you know?
No,
So,
exactly.
yeah, it goes both ways. Yeah, it's like,
Mm.
yeah. Well, like,
Yeah.
this chapter was hard. I'll admit, like, this chapter was hard for me, you
It
know?
was. It's a very difficult chapter. It touches on. It does touch on that grey area,
Hmm.
and it touches on how we how no matter who you are, no matter what you're doing in life, you're going to step on someone's toes, no matter what, whether you like it or not.
Hmm.
If you want to get good at what you're doing, life is a competition. Someone has to lose.
This is it.
Even no matter how much you want to do it and keep everyone happy, it's just life doesn't work that way.
Right, and it doesn't do you any good. I mean, like,
No.
uh let's just say, like, a job opportunity. Everybody's
Mm.
interviewing for a job. It's a great job, right? You get the job. Well, if you get the job, somebody didn't, right? Now, are you going to
Yep.
sit there and worry about all the people who didn't get the job? I don't think
Nope.
I don't think that's productive. I think you need
Mm.
to move forward that you got the job. There's a reason you got the job. You don't want to be a pisser about it, but there's a reason
Mm.
you got the job. Move forward. Like, you
Exactly.
have to, in many situations, we have a tendency to feel guilty about putting ourselves first when that is our direct responsibility. Ain't nobody
Mm-hmm.
responsible for us except for us. Okay.
Exactly.
It's, we're always going to, the book starts out telling us that we're going to find ourselves in situations where aggressive and passive aggressive and all these situations are going to be coming at us. And what we need to do is find a way to deal with the situations that mean to hold us back, cause us harm, or take advantage of us in some way. So
Mm-hmm.
when I was looking at it, at first I was, me, I'm just like, I do everything not to try to be that aggressive. Like I think there's a better
Mm.
way. But there are times you absolutely have to be. You don't want to get pushed around. You're not going to get anywhere putting other people first before yourself. When it comes to your
Yep.
career, when it comes to that job interview, when it comes to your family, like just think of it as family life, right? You're gonna
Exactly.
you're gonna get along with everybody to get along and not say rude things and try to be nice to the neighbors and all till somebody pushes on your family or says something about your kid, right? Then you're like, oh hell
Mm-hmm.
no. Oh hell no, right? And that's
Yep.
what they're talking about. Being prepared to do what's necessary in the way it's
Mm.
necessary, but not only be prepared to actually take a stronger stance or an aggressive step forward, but also how to recognize all of these aggressive type situations all around us to deal with it appropriately. Because head on isn't always right. Behind the scenes isn't always right. Ignoring it isn't always right. Like there's so many different ways, right? But
Mm-hmm.
so why don't you tell us how they started with it?
Okay. So this is chapter 5 for anyone that might be wanting to follow along with the book in this
Link in the
case,
description.
and
Yep.
it's called, yep, link in the description. It's called Know When to Be Bad, Aggression. So it starts off with a couple of quotes, but I will start with the hustler's setup, and it's a quote from Malcolm X. It says, "The hustler's every waking hour is lived with both the practical and the subconscious knowledge that if he ever relaxes, if he ever slows down, the other hungry, restless foxes, ferrets, wolves, and vultures out there with him won't hesitate to make him their prey."
Mm,
And that is true. You No matter what you're trying to do, there is someone wanting your position. No matter where you are in life, there is someone who wants your position.
mhm. We all do that.
And
We all look at what others are doing, like, you know, that way,
mm,
right?
yes. And we're gonna I'm gonna do this a little differently. I'm gonna actually read the story at the start of this chapter. Um because I think it might help. So bear with me. We'll probably talk about it along the way as well. So it starts off in the summer of 1998. Curtis Jackson returned to Southside Queens after having served some time in a rehabilitation program for drug offenders. And to his surprise, in the year he had been away, the hustling game had dramatically changed. The streets were now more crowded than ever, with dealers trying to make some money in the crack cocaine trade. Having grown weary over the heated rivalries and violence of the past 8 years, the hustlers had settled into a system where each would have his own corner or two. The drug fiends would come to them for quick transactions. It was easy and predictable for everyone. No need to fight or push people out of the way or even move around. And that's like in the previous chapters, that's when things start to always seem to uh, become more, when you need to be more aware, is when things start to settle down.
Hmm.
Because,
Waiting for the other shoe to drop syndrome. Like
yes,
everything's
yeah,
going fine, but you can't just sit there and think, nothing's ever going to change. Like everything can be going fine. And I don't do doom and gloom, but preparedness for like you should always have plan B. You know,
Yes, hope for the best, prepare for the worst.
there you go. That's it.
Mm-hmm. So it goes on. When Curtis spread the word that he was looking to get his old crew together and start back where he had left off before rehab, he was met with suspicion and outright hostility. If you remember in the last few chapters, he played some games.
He played hardball, man. He
Mm-hmm.
mm, is, and that always comes with
He
consequence. And this reputation he has is part of it, right?
exactly. He could ruin the nice system that had in place. It could ruin the nice system they had in place with his ambitious hustling schemes. He had the feeling that he would kill. He had the feeling they would kill him before he could do anything, just to preserve the new order.
Mm,
Just like in the last chapter, people want to keep things going the same way. They don't want. They don't. Change is hard. Change is very hard.
yeah,
It's
we've
something that,
learned fear.
yeah,
There's fear of
yeah,
change,
it's
the
fair. Yeah.
unknown. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mm. The future suddenly seemed depressing and grim. He had decided months before to find a way out of the drug dealing racket, but his plans depended on his ability to make some good money and save it so he could surge into a music career. Fitting into this one corner, fitting in, Fitting into this one corner system would mean he could never earn enough. A few years would go by and he would find it harder and harder to get out. But if he made a play to grab more turf and make some quick money, he would find few allies and many enemies among his fellow hustlers. It was not in their interest that he would be allowed to expand his business. Going back to not wanting it to change. The more
Yeah.
Curtis pondered the situation, the angrier he became. It seemed to him that everywhere he turned, people were trying to get in his way, restraining his ambitions or telling him what to do. They, pre- they pretended they were trying to keep order, when in fact it was just about getting power for themselves and holding on to it. In his experience, whenever he wanted something in life, he couldn't afford to be nice and submissive. He had to get active and forceful. And in this type of life, yeah, when you're hustling on the street, yeah, you have to. You there's and in life in general, you have to be proactive. Being proactive will always get you further than being stagnant. Would you agree?
I would agree. Yes, because if you're stagnant, you're not seeing the whole situation that's going on. Like he's looking at this as a step up. He's looking at it as opportunities that are there, and everybody else over there is looking at it as like you're trying to minimize our opportunity, right? Did I?
Uh, ooh, can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, now I can. I had
Oh
put the
shit.
echo, I had put the background noise counselor on because I could hear a blender. And I
Oh,
didn't realize that with your settings, it cut your mic out. Like it's the way you have your settings. Sorry. That was me,
that's
guys.
okay.
That wasn't him. I did it. Yeah. Sorry. You know
Yeah.
what? Lesson learned. Never mess with the audio engineer's mic, man. They know what they're doing. Like, don't try to mess where you don't belong.
I think it was just cutting it out because the tone of my voice is very
Mhm.
unfortunately similar to the blender.
Hey, listen. No, it's not. That I wasn't ready for that. Stop it. Okay, you kind of threw me there. But no, it's the harshness of the situation. Like they're trying to protect their turf. If they look at him, he's like, you want to use and abuse this just for money. Like this is ours. Like you got no right to come in here and mess with this. Like
Mm,
I think they know he doesn't want it long term. They know it. Like he's like they don't. Nobody wants to be a stepping stone for somebody else's greatness. Like,
Well, I mean, he's
seriously.
already tried it.
I mean, how many people do you know that are going to just lay out in front of you and go, sure, step on me to get ahead? Like, I'll get you up there, those 6 inches. Sure, I got nothing better. Like, go ahead. Like, what? Just like, have at
Some
it.
people pay for that kind of thing.
Ew, that's it. Well, there you go. That's turning it into an enterprise. There you go, the situation. Well, all right. Anyway,
Okay.
back to the story.
It would it would be natural for him to feel a little skittish, coming fresh out of jail and trying to get his old life back together. But what he really had to be afraid of was being stuck and settling for the corner hustler's life. Now was exactly the time to get aggressive, to be bad, to disrupt the system that he was designed on that was designed only to keep people like him down. And
Mhm.
it was. It very much was. The system, that life, it's it very much is in itself like a prison. It is easy to fall into and hard to get out of.
Well, it is because just everyday situations, first of all, like you don't have any of the things that a lot of us take for granted, like on the table, a roof over your head, like a couple of bucks. Everything's a fight. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's very easy to
Yeah.
get stuck. And just that paragraph there kind of epitomizes like exactly what this book is trying to get us to do. Look at the whole situation. Am I
Mm.
accepting this just to make it easier for right now? Is it the easy way? I can't stop looking at the long term goal. Like, how does it fit in for the future? Like, so that you don't
Mm.
get stuck into a situation where you've got no
Yep.
growth, where you're not going to be able to get out of it. Might be good
Or
temporarily, but in his situation, they're worried about just like getting dinner. They can't
mm.
be worried about
And
whether next week they can afford a chicken when they're just worried about eating today.
and
Like,
it takes in a lot of cases it takes all of your energy, and that's why it's so easy to just fall into that habit, because it really does take all of your energy, and you've
mhm.
got no energy left to do anything more. And
And that,
this is
yeah,
what
I
this
think
is
that's
why
what
people
Robert
fall
Greene
into
saw.
that
Yeah.
groove.
This is what Robert Greene saw in 50 Cent. He's like, in those situations, people don't normally get out because, just like you said, all of your energy is on the day to day. You're just looking for making it a little bit better. You're not thinking of the long term. Here comes 50 Cent, and his mindset is, no, I've got this goal that's way up there, and every single thing I do is going for it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and how he took every situation that happened, even when things went against him, even when things changed, like when he got injured, he got permanently damaged. He's fluid enough to take those situations, recognize them, the realism of them, understanding what it is, understanding what's going on around me, get the big picture of everything that's going, being fluid enough to recognize the change, and then using his opportunism to take advantage of that change for something new, to still go for that long-term goal, like always,
Mm-hmm.
constantly, like what's up there, like every movement.
And something that
Oh.
I sort of noticed as well throughout this book, he never it's not that he I should say it's not that he doesn't put a lot of energy into what he's doing. He puts just enough energy into what he's doing to have enough energy left over to get himself going further forward. Have you noticed
Mhm.
that?
Yes,
He
he talked about that, like to
mm,
use energy appropriately. He needs to be sharp for anything that's going to happen in the moment. It's kind of like what they call killer instinct, being ready to strike.
mm,
That's the
mm,
those when it comes to 50 Cent, all these violent words come into my head to like explain things, but there's something true about the killer instinct. You're so damn sharp that no matter what happens, like you're ready to go. You're ready to go.
mm,
Whatever the plan is. Now that doesn't have to be violence or anything like that. I just mean ready to go in action, in movement. Like you got a plan, like you're ready. Like your instincts are ready to go. You're not going to just sit and watch something go down. he's like
Exactly.
that no matter what he's involved in. Like he's over here in the music industry, but at the same time, opportunity comes with these other things, and he's got like plan B, plan C, plan D. So if everything
Mm-hmm.
goes bad over here in the music thing, if he has to deal with it, great. But he could walk away if he wanted to because he's got this other stuff over here. You know, it,
Exactly.
he
He keeps
practices.
just he keeps just enough energy in reserve to
Mm-hmm,
make sure that he's safe. It
exactly.
like a savings. It he
Mm-hmm,
keep like a savings account, keeping just enough money to get you out of a sticky situation. The
yep.
same applies with energy.
Hmm. So he treats his energy like that. He treats his investment like that. He treats his application of where he's putting his time in like that. He never puts everything in one basket. He does not put all his eggs in one basket ever,
No.
at all. So that and there is a lesson on itself. Like
Mm.
but that's based on where he comes from. He's so afraid of losing everything. It's like because you can in a second. He's like, well, I'm going to make it a little harder for you to find the everything. Like it's good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to make it a little bit more difficult for you to wipe me out because I'm
Yep.
spreading it everywhere. I'm spreading it everywhere.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
So, he thought back to the great hustlers he had known in the neighborhood. One of the most successful strategies was the setup, a variation on the old con game of bait and switch. You distract people with something dramatic and emotional, and while they're not paying attention, you and while they're not paying attention to you, you grab what you want. He had seen it executed dozens of times, and he thought about as as he thought about it, he realized he had the material for the perfect distraction. While in rehab, he had befriended the ringleader of a gang of Brooklyn stick-up artists. They were notorious for their efficiency and intimidating presence. For the
Mm-hmm.
setup, Curtis would lay low for a few weeks, working a corner like everyone else and appearing to go along with the new system. He would then hire these stick up artists on the sly to rob all of the neighborhood hustlers, including Curtis himself, of all their jewelry, money, and drugs. They would make several sweeps of the area over the course of a few weeks. As part, as part of the deal, they would keep the money and the jewelry from the robberies. Curtis would get the drugs. Nobody would suspect his involvement. And this is a perfect example of in his case, in specifically his case,
Mm-hmm.
when it was necessary to be bad. Obviously, you're not going to be in in everyone's life. You're not going to be going and running that kind of
Right.
uh, scheme.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessary. Like, as long as your life isn't in in a diabolical situation, you don't need to hire stick up artists. it's 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 kind of advisable not to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But in
Mrs.
his case, that's what he saw he needed to do.
Yeah, because Mrs. Cassandra reminds us he's from the projects. Like you
Mm,
see things as a kid there you really shouldn't have to see. Like he's coming from it from a different angle. All they know is law and break law. Like
mm,
and to them, these situations aren't even breaking the law. This is just
no.
how it is. Yeah.
Yep.
So it's not what they're actually concerned in. Legal and illegal are not like terms they use.
In well,
Yeah.
you could even say in this case, in their situation, what he did is, for lack of a better word, morally correct. Obviously, not really,
And
but
so many
to
people will push
them,
back on you for saying that because they'll say, no, he can't be moral because he broke the law and he's going behind people's back and he's doing this. But
exactly,
he's actually in this situation, there are other
in this
options he could have
context,
chose. This is the moral choice. He's not
yeah,
really hurting anyone.
no, there's, yeah. in his situation, yeah, that is exactly right. It, it, yeah,
Mm, right?
but
And
yeah,
that doesn't that hit wrong though? You're thinking
it
about
does.
word moral, and then you think about a situation like this, and you're like, no, wait, it can't be. But that's how we're conditioned.
But
That's yeah.
that's how they grew up. That's what they when people are in that situation, things are much different. What
Mm-hmm.
we what um I guess you could say the less criminal people would consider as being morally wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in their case, they've got no choice.
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly.
they're
His
yeah,
options are limited. Yeah. And
exactly.
it's not that we're advocating for this either.
No,
Don't go there. We're not advocating to break the law. Like, let's just put that
no,
disclaimer right out there. Nope, you
yeah,
guys know me. I am not advocating for anybody to break the law to get ahead. Absolutely not.
exactly.
But to use some type of an aggressive tactic to make sure that you're taking care of yourself and you're dealing with the situation appropriately, however, yeah, I'm advocating for that. Like, you can't always sit back and be the nice guy. Not if,
No,
and I'm not saying you can't. Yes, you can. But you got to actively make that choice for yourself to walk
mm,
away or not. Like, that's what we're talking about here. Being actively in the moment to make these choices and being willing to go this way or that way and know what they are, those options are, those tactics are, recognizing what's going on around you. I mean, that's what I'm getting from the book. Like, won't being in,
exactly. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
I don't think it's advocating violence, and it talks about
No,
a lot of it, but it's not advocating for it. It's
no.
using a really hard story
It's
to
it's
paint
the
a picture.
it's the message within the story that's the important part. Not
Exactly.
not what the story is saying.
Hmm.
Um, so, in the weeks to come, he watched with amusement as the sudden appearance of the stick up artist in his neighborhood caused a panic amongst the hustlers, some of whom were his friends. He pretended to share their distress. These Brooklyn gangsters were not to be messed with. Almost overnight, the dealer's whole way of life was disrupted. They were forced to now carry guns for protection. But this created a new set of problems. The police were everywhere, making random checks, and to be caught loitering with a gun would mean solid prison time. The hustlers could no longer simply stand on the street corner and wait for the drug fiends to come to them. They had to be in constant motion to avoid the police. For some, to avoid the police. For some, getting called on their beepers was the only way to arrange a deal. So this is him already changing
Hmm.
and forcing a change in an entire ecosystem. This is
Right.
50 himself solely creating this change,
Hmm.
solely making, pretty much forcing an ecosystem to change.
Yeah,
It's
he's kind of pointing out the vulnerabilities in it on in how they have to adapt. He's actually
mm,
helping them in the long run.
mm-hmm,
Like, but that's what he seems like. He looks at the whole situation and then will use those vulnerabilities in what's going on to his advantage. And if it happens to us, that's the lesson there. That
mm,
when our vulnerabilities in a situation are exposed, it's up to us then. Lesson learned. Let's fix that. Let's move forward.
mm-hmm,
Let's, like, make sure it doesn't happen again. Let's make sure we're on more solid ground about something. Because
exactly.
that that's easy to miss when you're talking about the story, because it's all about 50
Mm,
Cent. But then, like, just what you pointed out there, he's actually with being in the moment and taking an aggressive step with to take advantage of an opportunity. to turn it to his benefit.
A-
He's changing the
actually,
environment, and they're going to need to adapt, and they are. They are adapting right away. That just shows you what the
yeah.
mindset is there. Everything is like boom, boom, boom. When something changes, you got to be right on it and change with it and deal with it.
And there's
Yeah.
a little bit of a sub lesson in there as well. I just realized he he came into back into this where everyone else had the solid ground of how things should work, but his ground was very shaky. So instead of leaning on their way and relying on what they'd create, their solid ground that they created, he created his own solid ground his out of his shaky situation.
Mm-hmm.
He actually turned his shaky situation into his solid ground and made everyone else's solid ground shaky.
Mm-hmm.
So they
Yep.
had to adapt. Instead of him having to adapt to them, he made them adapt to him.
Yep.
And that's smart. That's a that's hard. That is a very
Yep.
hard thing to do.
Yep. And then the outcome is like he's going to be able to get the money that he wanted. He just wanted to make more money. He needed more drugs to make more money. And
Mm-hmm.
he is, because like he said, they robbed him too, but like they get to keep all the money and all the stuff, but they give him the drugs. Now he can sell the drugs, get that bankroll that he was looking for, and to move forward with the project that he wanted to do. Because
Yep.
really, he doesn't want to be a drug dealer. He wants to move out, but he knows he needs that money to do it. It's the only viable option that he has to be able to do it.
Exactly. So everything became more complicated and business slowed down. The old model, tight and static, had been exploited, and now Curtis into the breach with some new colored capsule. Moved into the breach with some new colored capsules he packaged and sold to the fiends. Sometimes he included in the sales some free capsules, which happened to be the drugs he had accumulated from the robberies. The fiends began to flock to him, while the other hustlers were too upset to notice the trick that had been played. And that's what happens. That
Mm-hmm.
is really what happens when you switch things up on people. Is that it, I bet everyone can has some sort of story where things have been going really smoothly and then something gets switched up so dramatically that it's just you've got no clue what to do. And someone might have done that to you and
Mm-hmm.
you would never guess.
Yeah.
Um, by the time they figured it out, it was too late. Curtis had expanded his business and he was well on his way to buying his freedom. And yeah,
And
he,
so that's how he got the money to move forward.
yep, that's how he
Wow.
got the money to move forward. And so, several years later, now known as 50 Cent, Curtis, now known as 50 Cent, had carved out a path towards a career as a rapper. He had to deal with Columbia Records and the future looking reasonably bright. But 50 was not one to be duped by the usual dreams. He quickly saw that there was only so much room for the top performers who could bank on a solid career in this business. He, along with everyone else, was fighting for crumbs of attention. The artist might get temporary success with the hit here or there, but it wouldn't last, and they had no power to alter the dynamic. What was worse, 50 had made some enemies in the business. He was an ambitious hustler with talent. There were people who mistrusted and feared him. They worked behind the scenes to make sure he would not get far in the industry. As 50 learned, talent and good intentions are never enough in this world. You need to be fearless and strategic. When you face people's indifference or outright hostility, you have to get aggressive. and push them out of your way by any means necessary. And uh, I guess we should mention any means necessary um, doesn't necessarily mean any means necessary.
He sure did, Mrs. Cassandra. That's one of the examples. Like we're gonna
Mm,
encapsulate for.
we're actually getting there. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so
So,
you wanna finish up? Yeah.
yep.
Uh.
Um, and not only about some people disliking by any means necessary, and not worry about some people disliking you. In this case, he looked for any opportunity to make such a bold move, and one evening a chance encounter provided this for him. At a club in Manhattan, 50 was talking with a friend of the neighborhood when he saw the rapper Ja Rule staring in his direction. This is a beautiful example of using um using someone else's power for your own uh, benefit. Several weeks before, 50's friend had robbed Ja Rule of some jewelry in broad daylight. 50 expected Ja Rule to come over and cause some trouble. Instead, he looked away and decided to ignore him. This was rather shocking. Ja Rule was one of the hottest rappers in the business. He had built his reputation on being a gangster from Southside Queens. His lyrics reflected his tough guy image. He and his record label, Murder Inc., had allied themselves with Kenneth Supreme McGriff, former head of the Supreme Team, a gang that had dominated the New York drug business in the 1980s with its ruthless tactics. Supreme gave them street credibility, and Murder Inc. gave Supreme an entree into the music business, something legitimate to distance himself from his dark past. No real hustler or gangster would ever ignore the man who had robbed him so brazenly. What this meant to 50 was that Ja was fake. His lyrics and image were all show to make money. He was arrogant yet insecure. As as he contemplated this, the idea of a masterful setup took shape in his mind, one that would draw attention and help catapult him past all of those who stood in his way. In the weeks to come, 50 began releasing diss tracks that took aim at Ja Rule, painting him as a studio gangster who rapped about things that he had never experienced. Ja must have been annoyed, but did not respond to 50's taunts. He was clearly too big to concern himself with small fry. 50's next move, however, could not be ignored. And this is where it sort of gets, where his strategy really shines. He releases a song that details activities of the most notorious gang leaders, including Supreme, in Southside Queens in the 1980s. As the song became more popular on the streets, it brought Supreme the kind of attention that he was trying to avoid. Now that he was, going legitimate, this made him angry and suspicious. Uh, what made what might 50 do next? He, uh, sorry, what might 50 do next? He pressured Ja Rule, Supreme pressured Ja Rule to go after and destroy this
Mm-hmm.
upstart before he went too far. That is a genius way of indirectly going after someone,
Mm-hmm.
and it's it sort of shows how sometimes when we have a problem, going directly at the problem
Right.
is not the best idea, and in
Right.
fact a better
Direct
strategy
is passive
is,
aggressive. Is go behind the scenes, lay the groundwork,
yeah,
dismantle
find a
their foundation. brick by brick. Yep.
Find a way to indirectly get what you want. In this
Mm-hmm.
case, he was trying to get Ja Rule to go after him. He was trying
Mm-hmm.
to use Ja Rule to catapult his own career. But the diss tracks that he had aimed at Ja Rule, which, if anyone knows anyone knows about rap, rap
Mm-hmm.
is a bit of a competitive sport. So if someone challenges you, you are somewhat obligated to fight back. But Ja
Right.
didn't want to fight back. And
No.
50 realized that going directly at Ja wasn't going to work. So he went after the person that was actually helping Ja keep his career, which forced Ja Rule to do exactly what
Exactly. He put that
50
person in line
wanted.
and made them react in a way that they had to protect themselves, and they were going to actually get Ja Rule to do exactly what 50 wanted all along, but they think they're actually just protecting themselves. So they don't even know
Mm-hmm.
at this point that they're actually just falling into line with a plan. Like, oh,
Exactly.
but that's the
It,
beauty of how he looks at a situation. He sees all the players and all the stuff, and he just like moves things around to get it done that way. So
mm-hmm.
so 50 was very aggressive in his nature, all right. And now we got the other guy showing passive aggressive. Like, I want to attack 50 and take him down. Like, I want him out. I want him gone. He's causing me trouble. What am I
Mm-hmm.
going to do? Oh, I'll just get Ja Rule to do it. Right. Because,
Yep.
like, then
Ja Rule's his meal ticket.
my hands are clean. Let Ja Rule do it. He'll take the hit. Like, okay, so you go
Mm-hmm.
after. It's just it kind of beauty. It just we're gonna get to that part where we're gonna show you like the different types of scenarios and example, but this one's perfect example of both aggressiveness on 50's part, and then the passive aggressive part on Supreme's part, and then we're gonna get the Ja Rules part. I don't know. Ja Rules is a little reactionary. It looks like he's being reactionary to 50, doing the diss tracks, but he's really
Mm.
not, because he's
Yeah.
actually dealing with all these stuff behind the scenes that he has to keep down. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's not even not at that point. It doesn't even have anything really to do with 50, except for 50 stirred it all up. You know,
Exactly.
like so.
So Ja was now forced into going after him. He tried whatever he could. He tried whatever he could to shut 50 up. He spread nasty rumors about 50's past and attempted to block any record deals he might have. At one point, finding 50 in the same recording studio he was at, Ja and his cohorts started a brawl. Ja wanted to intimidate 50 with his muscle and reputation, but this only made 50 increase the pace of diss tracks that he released. He wanted to push all of Ja's buttons, make him angry and insecure, burning for revenge. He stayed cool and strategic, or Ja would lose control,
Hmm.
basically forcing Ja to be the aggressor, where 50, instead of being the aggressor which he was at the start by going after Ja with the original diss
Hmm.
tracks, he decided to play the smarter game and essentially pull him into his own trap. He stayed cool and strategic while Ja would lose control. To this purpose, he called Ja a wankster, a wannabe gangster. He parodied, he parodied his singing style, his lyrics, everything about his supposed tough guy image. The songs were hard driving, biting, and humorous. Slowly but surely, Ja became more and more made it furious at these songs, making it to the radio, and journalists peppering him with questions about 50. He had to prove his toughness, that he was no wankster, so he released his own diss track. These songs were not witty, however, only violent and vicious. Without realizing it, he had become defensive and not very entertaining. 50's first record came out at about the same time as one of Jar's, and its sales far eclipsed those of his rivals. Now he was the star, and Jar began to fade from the scene. Befitting his new role, 50 stopped the attacks, and almost out of pity for his former rival, Jar and stopped out of pity for his former rival. Jar had served his purpose, and it was better to leave him to oblivion. Does anyone
He
remember
made him
Jar by
irrelevant.
any chance at all?
No, because they
No,
made him
no, didn't
irrelevant.
think so.
It was actually his responses that he got judged for. Whereas, it was quite obvious that 50 Cent was being much more cooler about it. It looked like he was in control the whole time. And
Mm-hmm.
Ja just acted completely triggered, like, and completely. And, that's the thing in entertainment. Like, if you make it personal like that, you got to be entertaining about it. It still has to be good. You just can't come out there with this stuff. And all of a sudden, everything that 50 Cent was saying in the disses became reality. Like, people were looking at
Mm-hmm.
it and then looking at Ja's reaction, going, "Look at him, like, going off like a little boy. Look at him, like, letting this guy get under his skin. Look at him reacting like he's some big gangster. He not. Like, you know how it
Yep.
went. Like,
It.
they let his own fans take him out, and they did.
Yeah.
Everybody turned on him. He just lost it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, I think at this point we can go to. What do you think? We should start breaking out like the five situations in
Yep.
since they're all there. Um,
Yeah.
let's just. Oh, let me get this up here. Oh, why did it do that? Why does it always go to that one? Okay, so. Mm, they always start with Machiavelli. I never thought I would talk so much about Machiavelli in my whole life. Like, I read all of it and I was like, that would never pertain to anything that I have to do. And here I am every week quoting Machiavelli. It's kind of amusing. Um, but the keys to fearlessness in this, like, this is how the book is designed. Every chapter, they're going to give us the keys to focus on the types of things they're talking about. So here they're talking about being aggressive, right? And they're going to talk about, now we're going to look at how to recognize the different types, like what different types of aggressive tactics are people using in certain situations, and what's the appropriate pushback for that, what's the most effective way to push back on that scenario or that type person or situation, right? Well, the Machiavelli quote is, "Well, how we live is so far removed from how we ought to live that he who abandons what is done for what ought to be done will rather learn to bring about his own ruin than his preservation. A man who wishes to make a profession of goodness in everything must necessarily come to grief among so many who are not good. Therefore, it is necessary for a prince who wishes to maintain himself to learn how to not be good and to use this knowledge and not use it according to the necessity of the case." And that speaks to what we said about before. Everybody's a little bit good, everybody's a little bit bad. At any point in our life, we're approaching things in a bad way or a good way, in an aggressive way or a non aggressive way. And just
I
how to
th-
recognize how to push back on that and at what level, right? Like,
I think some good examples of this are Apple and Facebook.
oh, yeah.
Um, the uh, if anyone knows the stories, the how the stories are sort of similar between Apple and Facebook, they've they both I can't remember who was the head of Apple again.
It was Steve,
What
Steve Jobs?
Steve Jobs? Yeah. Both Steve Jobs and Mark
Mark?
Zuckerberg have been uh, have been praised for building such an amazing service and product. They've
Mm-hmm.
also been accused of stealing it in a way,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Absolutely. Steve Jobs muscled out his partner, Wojcicki. And so has Mark
Hmm.
Zuckerberg with the other two guys who actually wrote the platform, and he just conveniently enterprised it away from them.
Exactly.
Uh, so they're both aggressors. Steve Jobs is the epitome of asshole, walking asshole. But is he successful? Yes. But he's also an example of when you can be too much that way and end up alone. You know.
Ooh, you might want to unplug and plug yourself back in. There seems to be something coming through, some popping.
Popping.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, um, another little quote that I find quite interesting is that when it comes to confrontation, we're generally much more skittish. We often take what people are saying personally. If someone overtly disagrees with us or expresses an opinion contrary to our own, and I think it's important that we are able to take what someone is saying just at face value in many cases and not take it personally. It's it seems to be
Exactly.
something we do a lot. I think YouTube kind of the way YouTube is built kind of encourages that kind of toxic
Hmm.
thought.
Is that any better? Hopefully the popping is gone. I know it's
Yes.
gone.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't hear any of the popping
You don't
now.
have your phone near your mic again, do you? Like move it.
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't.
All right. Um. Okay. So that is true. Like the ability to look at criticism or look at pushback as being helpful is it's hard. You always take it
Mm,
personally first. I mean, it's going to sting a little bit because actually it's directed at you. There's no doubt about that. You can't avoid it. It's like directed at you. But you have to look at it as the bigger picture sometimes. And that's not always easy. It's not always
nope.
easy. And but to when you finally get to a place where you can successfully take that, step back. I'm not saying don't react and don't feel the things. Of course you're going to, but always reflect on the bigger picture of it eventually when you can, because there are lessons in there. There is a valuable thing in there, especially in your response or what it is that tripped you up so much. You can learn a lot. Well,
Mm,
yeah. Let's do the five. I think we got a lot to give them if we give them the five types of foes or situations or where aggression is necessary, where the
yes.
types of aggression affect us, the type of aggressive situation get to us in like kind of what to do about it. The first one is like the
Mm,
straight on aggressive person, the bully, the intimidator, the confrontational, headstrong, just in your face aggressor in any situation. You know, uh, is it good to go back at them the same way? Probably not. To get the best result, play that on them, just like 50 did with Ja Rule. He took a step back when he got aggressive and he didn't do direct confrontation anymore. You use indirect tactics to undermine them, but you let them play the fool out there being all aggressive. You're going to get some sympathy from people. You're going to get people to look at them a little bit harder and judge their actions while you're making all these moves over here that they don't even see. So you're not getting judged for it. And they're taking it. And that's the win win with dealing with an aggressor or a bully, you know going head to head with a bully gives them exactly what they want. It gives them, you're giving them your power, and then their power gets better, gets bigger.
unless you're pretty much 100% certain that you will come out on top, taking like Claire said, taking an aggressive approach can end very poorly.
Right. So, like, we all know, like, when we talk about
Meeting
bullies, you
them at
always think,
meeting
go
at
ahead.
the meeting them at their level.
Right. You can meet them at their level. Let's just use the common example of the schoolyard bully, right? They threaten to beat you up all the time. They threaten to beat you up all the time. They get a big crowd around you. They're pushing you around and everything like that. If you took the passive aggressive way and you didn't deal with them confronting, like in that situation, may not be the best thing. Okay. But you want to weigh your odds. Like, the best thing to do in that situation is make the first strike. He's threatening to punch you and hurt you, so knock him out. Period. Like, oh yeah, knock him out. But you have to be able to do that. Like, you can't be like, the little guy against Goliath and knock him out unless you really know you're going to knock him out. Because otherwise, you're just playing into his hands and you're going to make a fool of yourself, right? So it it's a matter of knowing the opponent. It's a matter of knowing your strength at the time and deciding like what to actually do about it. It's not always best to beat up the schoolyard bully. you know, if you can beat up the schoolyard bully, you will stop it. But what if you take that swing and you miss?
Mm-hmm.
What if he gets up?
Exactly.
Like, it's all over for you, right? So
Yep.
yeah, that's why they say, like, for the direct aggressors like that, coming from, like, usually direct aggressors are coming from an overblown up sense of power. They think they have all the power, and therefore, the saying, I think therefore I am. They're coming at you that way, then everybody around them thinks the same thing, thinks that they have all the power. The best thing to do is let them think it while you go behind and chip that all away. Let them making, like, letting the tides turn against them in public about it. I actually, think that's the best way to deal with somebody that's coming on with you like that way. Let them be judged for that aggressive nature. Is
Exactly.
kind of what I'm saying. Let the court of public opinion put a pin in that one for you. Um, it's not really worth it, you know. And
Mm.
they use the historical example of Franklin D. Roosevelt, who's like a president I do like to talk about a lot because I think he was, when he did the New Deal, people were trying to use it against him. There were people that were going to vote against him. They were working behind the scene. What he did, like while they were out there doing like a campaign and talking all this crap about him in public, and actually verbalizing all of this distress and judgment against him, what he did was go behind the scenes in, like, where the one opponent was actually from the state of Louisiana. um his passive aggressive way of dealing with it was he went into Louisiana and he fired all his support system in administration and replaced them with FDR supporters. So now in the guy's own hometown where his base is, he can't get anything done because everybody's working for FDR. Okay. And he did like stuff like that behind the scenes and ended up winning the election, because by the time they got to the election, this guy couldn't get anything done. Like, he couldn't do a damn thing. His whole support system started to collapse. So that's the kind of stuff they're talking about. You can do things not out front, but behind the scenes, and not address the person directly, but you're addressing the situation, you know.
I think this 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 little excerpt is probably uh, represents it pretty good. Um, FDR had understood the basic principles in squaring off against aggressors who are direct and relentless. If you meet them head on, you are forced to fight on their terms. Unless you happen to be an aggressive type, you are generally at a disadvantage against those who have simple ideas and fierce energy. It is best to fight them in an indirect manner, concealing your intentions and doing what you can behind the scenes, hidden from the public, to create obstacles and sow confusion. Instead of
Mm-hmm.
reacting, you must give aggressors some space to go further with their attacks, getting them to expose themselves in the process and provide you with plenty of juicy targets to hit. If you become
Mm-hmm.
too active and forceful in response, you look defensive.
Mm-hmm.
You are playing the fox to the lion, remaining cool and calculated, doing whatever you can to make them more emotional, and baiting them to fall apart through their own reckless energy.
He never directly debated them on any of the issues they brought up. He never gave them any credit, like no credibility. He never addressed it publicly, what was going on, and it kind of took the fire out of everything. It kind of made it irrelevant, you know, because they just ramped up, right? They just ramped up when they went after
Yep.
him. They looked kind of foolish. I mean, it was kind of, and while he did that, not just ignoring them publicly, he behind the scenes was making sure that they couldn't damage him, like that he was going to be protected, like that he taking the fire out of them all along
Mm-hmm.
the way, you know, proving his strength quietly, you know. Well, oh, but there's more, right? Oh, but there's more. So that's the
There is
one type.
always
I
more.
think we all can think about the aggressors in our lives. They're pretty evident, right? There's no hiding
Yeah.
an aggressor. I mean, you see them coming a mile away, right? Like you could
Yep.
tell that situation pretty good. The passive aggressive one is a little harder to note. Those are the people in our lives that are manipulating us and in trying to get us to do things and all, and kind of controlling situations in a much more subtle way, like that's
Mm-hmm.
not right in your face, you know, but it is consistent and it is damaging, and
I
it does put us at risk, you know.
I think something that we should mention is that these categories of different people, of different ideas, doesn't necessarily make one particular person that you might be thinking of that particular type. Every single one of the types of aggressors that we're going to talk about can be applied to basically everyone,
At
because at
different
points in
times,
times,
different
yep,
situations. Yep. Mm-hmm.
everyone at some point in their life has been the aggressor, at some point in their life has been the passive aggressor, and stuff like that. It's not a one
Mm-hmm.
size fits all.
Right. And we create these situations, deal with these situations. But the most important thing is to recognize them for what they are so we know how to deal with them, which is throughout the book. It keeps
Mm.
focus back on that. Remember, realism. It is what it is.
Fluidity of action.
Right. Realism first, fluidity of action second, opportunism, and now like learning when is it appropriate to use aggressive, in actually getting more comfortable and less guilty about when we have to do that, because that's society builds that into us, the guilt factor on when we have to
Mm.
take the rein, the wheel and drive, or the reins and steer. They always try to push it on it that we should feel a little guilty that we took something away from somebody else, and that's not always beneficial. I mean, that just gives you the thing, like, you know, kind of like you don't deserve it. Why not? Like
Mm.
everybody deserves it. Like, you know, everybody deserves their shot. Everybody deserves the ability and the flexibility, especially like here in America. Isn't that what we promote? Like
Mm-hmm.
anyone can do it if you just apply yourself and you do it. Like you do, anyone should be have that opportunity. You know,
And
But-
you could also think of it the other way. No one deserves it. No one
right?
deserves the opportunity. No one deserves
Not
um
over anyone
any
else.
of
That's
that.
right.
No,
Yeah, right.
exactly.
Yeah. It's not about a matter of deserving. It is what it is. There's going to be lots of things in your way, people, situations. I mean, some things are just unattainable because it is the way it is. It's how you
Mm.
deal with it. The book is all about how to deal with it in a way that is good for you, protecting yourself, recognizing these situations, and in choice, making the active choice with full knowledge of what you're going to do, with full knowledge of the consequences that may occur. And
Exactly.
that's exactly what I take from it. This is all just informational on how to recognize things. It's not telling you to go out and stomp on people. It's not telling you to like go do illegal things. It's telling you to make active choices to decide when to actually engage and when not to. What is the best thing for you? What is the best thing for the situation, for the outcome that you want? Just understanding what's going on around you, recognizing it, recognizing what
Mm.
you're seeing. So passive aggressors are hard to recognize. You usually find out about a passive aggressive tactic after the fact, um, because they don't do it openly. They do it indirect, subtly, behind the scenes, you know, but they're hostile. Get make no mistake, it's usually a hostile thing. Okay. So it's not really best to come at them head on, right? If you're dealing, like, just to say, like, you're dealing with the, let's say your girlfriend, you got a group of girlfriends or group of guy friends, right? There's that one friend that's always saying crap about everybody behind everybody's back, like whoever they're with, like, in a group of four, they'll be saying this about one person to two others, right? It gets like
Mm.
passive aggressive, but they never say it to the person, right?
Mm-hmm.
In a group of four people, is it going to do you any good to like address that person bold like a jerk straight out and go, I heard you said this about me, and bam bam? It's just going to make you look bad, right? it's not going to
Yeah.
it's not going to stop them from doing what they're doing. You're
Yeah.
going to embarrass them, you're going to embarrass the people around you, right? In making a
Mm-hmm.
confrontation, people are going to get uncomfortable, and all of a sudden, even though this person did you wrong, is talking mad shit about you,
You end
obviously
up being the
you
one that
end up
comes
being the
out
bad guy.
looking. Yep.
Right. Yep.
So I guess I guess a good way to put it is that it's better to be proactive and take precautionary measures the
Mm-hmm.
moment you feel they're trying to get in you, like into your life or into into your comfort,
Yeah, and
trying to
you gotta be
sabotage you.
right, but you gotta be willing to be that bad guy, because if you do, you actually, because I'm like expressing it the wrong way. You should address it, because the only way to get that person to stop is to shine a light on it, and that's what they're kind of saying. They're like, you shine a light on what they're doing, okay, but you gotta like play it out. Like, so in that scenario, I would like shine the light on the person, but not with the other people around, because I don't want the other people judging me like I'm the bad guy, you know.
Hmm.
um, I would shine the light on it and address them publicly, that I know what's going on, to that person directly, you know, um, kind of like Richard Nixon did, but still, he got a bad reputation because of it.
I
Like,
think a good way to sort of be proactive about it is if that person, say, is trying to um like poo poo you and put you in a bad light, is to make sure that the people that you do interact with, the people that you are close to, see who you really are and actually, you know, understand that, like, even if this person tries to say you're the worst person out there, there'd be no one else that would corroborate that comment,
right,
that
right.
idea, because
Yeah,
the
because the
people
worst
that
thing,
know you,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
the worst thing you could do is deal with this person the same way, or behind this, like passive aggressively, like when we're talking about that group gossip person. If you then start talking about that person with everybody behind the scenes instead of dealing with them directly, you're doing the same thing they're doing, and you lose all credibility. Absolutely
you
lose all
and you
credibility.
come off as weaker than they are.
Exactly. And so you want to kind of be bold and decide whether you're going to say something or not, like irrelevant or not, but like letting them know that you know what's going on first out should be there, that you're not going to be messed with. Like, you're not blind, you know, you're not going
Hmm.
to be a fool, and you're not going to lay down. Because here's the other thing, dealing with people like that, walking away from it isn't actually losing either. Um, it's a different plan, because they think they win. Like, they think they win when they talk all this shit about you. They think people are listening to it and believing it. But when you don't actually feed into it, people start looking at you like, why? Like, why not? Well, maybe it's not true. And then they start watching what you're doing and see your real character. And sometimes that could, like, it depends. It's a lot longer strategy, because believe me, I've been there, done this. It's a longer
And when it
strategy.
comes to passive aggressive people, it is a long,
It is a
it
long
is
term
almost
strategy.
always a long term thing that you have to do,
Mm-hmm,
because, like we said it when we started talking about the passive aggressive type, they're subtle.
mm-hmm,
They are they can be very toxic, and
mm-hmm,
just like toxins, it can be a
mm-hmm.
very slow burn.
but choosing to use those passive aggressive tactics, you run the risk of being known for it, like Richard Nixon one, well before Watergate Gate happened. He had a reputation for using indirect taxes, passive aggressive things like insinuations, political sabotage, starting rumors, um, not coming directly for anyone, but like they kind of knew behind the scenes where it was coming from, because he would be like, removing contracts, spreading rumors, blackballing people. And he got known as Tricky Dicky. And that stayed with him even well before Watergate happened. He was known for these kind of underhanded kind of things. So it's not always the best way to be. Sometimes you have to do things behind the scenes rather than directly. But I don't think you want to make it a habit to that's the only thing you're known for. You know what I mean? Like,
Never, yeah, never. I guess, I guess it would be never sticking to one. Never treat every situation with one
exactly.
band aid.
Flexibility, like it's the thing. Because we've
Hmm.
all had something to say about somebody, right? Like eventually, like
Of
sooner or
course.
later. You just be careful. Don't be known for being the one who always has something to say about somebody. You know what I mean? Those are two different things. You know, saying
Mm-hmm.
something about somebody is one thing. Being the one who always says something about somebody is another thing, right? Like you don't want to be the one who's always doing it. That's, I think, what
Unless
yeah.
it's your job. If it's your job and you make money from it, then keep going. Just
Oh, you mean
go
like
on
a
that grind.
trash talking commentary?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay, yes, all right.
But you have to own it. That is the best advice I could give. Is if you're gonna do it,
Own
own
it.
it.
Yeah,
Don't
be genuine. Be genuine
yeah.
about it. Actually, yeah.
Don't try and be
Hmm.
act one way
Hmm.
and behave another.
I would think for passive aggressors, you almost all of us have dealt with passive aggressive type tactics at work, at school, in our
Mm-hmm.
personal lives, with our friends and family. Um, does anybody have that relative that always says something like not so nice to say, like
Mm-hmm.
about something, or does the backhanded compliment, like,
There's always that one person that is the master of backhanded compliments.
yeah, like, like the aunt, like, that comes
And
in and is like, Claire, you look so good, your hair looks so fantastic today, it's so surprising at your age, right? You're
yep.
like, yo.
And we should be honest here. We've all done it too.
Yeah,
Everyone has done it. Yep.
humor. I do it constantly with humor.
Mm,
But
exactly.
mm, yeah. So like, it's like when you want to say something, but you don't want to be judged for what you say. That's a passive aggressive kind of thing. You're saying it
Mm,
without saying it. Like you're not
mm-hmm.
owning it 100%. You're not like taking out the billboard. You're like passing passing hand notes around. Like,
Mm,
yeah. I get it. Like all these visuals are in my head now. Yeah, the aunt that talks shit about her own kids, exactly. Mrs. Cassandra, I was like, at least there's a bit of honesty there. Yeah, but
mm-hmm.
all right. So now the third type, this one's a little harder because this one affects all of us in some way, somehow, some larger than more. But unjust situations, that's a definite type of aggressive thing against our goals and what we want to accomplish.
Mm,
But uh, encountering systemic injustices or unfair circumstances. The boss always is going to hire family. The poor just don't get the opportunity. I can't afford college. Like, this and that, the other thing. There's always there's oppression, there's inequality, there's racism. Like we know these things, right? These are
mm-hmm.
ingrained everywhere. But how to deal with them? How do you deal with that? You could take it head on and challenge the status quo, which society has. Racism, like, what's the common thing? Racism's wrong, right? Inequality
Exactly.
is wrong, right? Oppression is wrong. Nepotism,
Yep.
that's not really a good thing. It happens all the time.
Nope.
It's not fair, right? Kind of calling it out for what it is, making it obvious, and
Yep.
then making a strategic plan to work around it.
And
Sometimes, yeah, go
I,
ahead.
I guess, and not not just pointing it out, but being active about how you deal with it. So not just saying, "Oh, that's so unfair," and then sitting back and being like, "Well, that's unfair. It shouldn't happen." Well, everyone knows that it's not fair. Everyone knows that it shouldn't be happening. If it's
Mhm.
happening, it's happening. You have to do
Right.
something about it.
You got to deal with the
Complaining doesn't
reality
get
of
you very far.
exactly pointing it out like, well, wait a minute, you just hired your daughter for a job that I qualify for, and you're going to get a so
The sky is blue.
the sky is blue. Like, what do you want me to do about it? Yes, I did. Okay, but here's what you do about it. You prove that you are more than qualified for the job, and actually hiring her was an injustice to everybody, not just you. Like, that's strategic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you just kindly let it know, like, let your scores out, let your freaking degree get known by the rest of the people in the building. Go to the co-manager with your resume. Let,
Until
stuff like this, yeah, until
yeah,
it
and you
becomes very obvious
yeah,
that she's not
and
as
you
qualified. Yes, right.
and then eventually she would probably say, "Well, that's unfair," and you can reply with, "The grass is green."
Exactly. Um, because usually in an unjust situation, systemic injustice and unfair circumstances, when they are brought to light and they actually have to suffer the consequences of the situation, things will change. When it becomes unpopular or they're not actually getting away with it, so you have to be very strategic about it in kind of cunning. Like, there were
I
two ways. I put two examples here because there's
I
two ways
I
to do
was
it.
I was actually just about to say that. Would you like to do it, or shall I?
No, go ahead. You were ready first. You go.
There was so a very good quote in the book is, in facing an unjust situation, you have two options. You can loudly proclaim your intentions to defeat the people behind it, making yourself look good and noble in the process, but in the end, this tends to polarize the public. You create one hardened enemy for every sympathizer won over
Hmm.
to the cause, and it makes your intentions obvious. If the enemy is crafty, this makes it almost impossible to defeat them. Or, if it is the results you are after, you must learn instead to play the fox, letting go of your moral purity. You resist the pull to get emotional, and you craft strategic maneuvers designed to win the public support. You
Hmm.
shift your position to suit the circumstance, baiting the enemy into actions that will win you sympathy. You conceal your intentions. Think of it as war. Short of unnecessary violence, you are called to do whatever it takes to defeat the enemy. There is
Hmm.
no nobility in losing if an injustice is allowed to prevail.
That was a very famous quote applied with Abraham Lincoln. As long as slavery existed, he was unsuccessful as far as he concerned. But what he did with all of the stuff pulling back with the North and the South, he actually is the epitome of the example of when you polarize. And he had to make sure he was coming from a very strong position. Being president at the time, he felt he was. He felt that he knew it was going to polarize, but he knew in the end he was going to win. So he made very bold statements to move those that were unsure about the situation to his side. With the Emancipation Proclamation in the Gettysburg Address, he confronted it head on, made the situation front and center about drawing the lines. Okay. Where Frederick Douglass, on the same issue of slavery, an abolitionist, okay, he used eloquence and getting along with everybody and looking for common ground, like making, ways into the printing of things and sharing of information. He did strategic alliances with known enemies, with people that everybody was warning him not to have anything to do with. Okay. Um, to advocate for civil rights and to move the notions forward. You know, he did it in a way that was more subtle. Instead of shoving it in your face, he made it like, why not? Like, why not? Why can't we get rid of slavery? Look, you know, instead of like throwing it in your face the way Abraham Lincoln did. So they're both perfect examples of what you just said, like
Mm-hmm.
embodying it. You know, if Abraham Lincoln wasn't the president, that bold move wouldn't have worked. If say he was just a legislator, like he was a senator or something, right?
Mm.
And he did the Gettysburg Address and the Emancipation Proclamation. They
He
could
would
have
have been
organized
laughed off the
against him.
stage.
He would have been left off stage, and we never would have heard from him again, right? But the only reason it was successful, he took that chance, is because he was coming from such a strong point of power. He also had a good idea on where the nation, like where the numbers were as far as public opinion, and morally he felt he was right. It was an unjust situation that had to be rectified, and there were going to be some losses. Some people were going to get hurt, but it was an unjust situation that had to be corrected. So he came from a real like strong stance on it, like of power, that it was going to happen no matter what. So, but like go.
The next one is static situations. Um,
I think we all can relate to this. It just happens in
mm,
our lives over and over again. Oh, constantly, right?
yep. Where should we start with this one?
Well, it's just about stagnant environments, right? And
Mm-hmm.
not only just a naturally occurring stagnant environment, like graduating from high school and not immediately moving forward on anything and just sitting around waiting to decide what to do. Ooh, not so good, right? Or
Yep.
or being at that job
Actually,
that's comfortable and pays the bills, but you're really really bored, and but it does it, but you're just, you know, it's not really fulfilling you, and you're not really you there's no promotion in sight, there's no advancement in the company, there's nothing left to learn, you know, but you're still comfortable, so you're resistant to change, you're stagnant, you've stopped
very
moving,
stagnant.
you're no
You
longer,
just follow the
yeah,
rules, essentially.
right,
Uh,
basically, yep.
I,
And
I think the 50 story actually fits very well. Where he took that stagnant situation and he essentially was less respectful of the rules that other people had established because they didn't really fit the time
mhm.
or his temperament.
How
And
about even the way he approached promoting his own music? Totally
mm-hmm,
against the industry, you know, giving it away from free because the industry was being stagnant, and we have to do it this way, even in looking at a new problem like piracy.
exactly.
You can't
Mm-hmm,
you can't always apply the way things are always done to new situations, like to new issues and problems that come up.
exactly. And there is great power to be had by being the one to initiate a new order.
Hmm. Andy Warhol, he's an example. He has a whole
Mm-hmm,
error. Nobody can think of that whole error without thinking of Andy Warhol in the soup can. It's the soup can error, like modern art.
mm-hmm.
You think Andy Warhol, you know, or Pollock, you know, the guy that just took a paintbrush and sprayed dots on the paper, like yeah, that guy.
Jackson Pollock number five, one
Jackson
of the
Pollock,
most
though.
expensive paintings in the entire world. And
Could
all it
somebody
is some crazy guy throwing paint at a canvas.
Yeah, and can somebody explain that to me? Like, we actually will pay millions for that because that guy innovated the process. You know what he did? He went up there and said, "Why not? Why do I have to
Mm-hmm.
do it like that? Why not just do it like this? You'll buy it anyway." And they did. They did. Like,
They
I was
didn't
like,
just buy it,
"What?"
they bidded for it. They bid for that.
Mrs. Cassandra's cringing right now because she's wondering if I'm going to bring up the poop in the can, which I just did. There you go.
Once again, they didn't just buy that either. They bid
Mhm.
for it.
And
They
it's
put
still, yep.
Yeah, they put an increasing value for it.
Yep. Hmm. So you got it. Yep, absolutely. But yes, being stagnant is just stagnant. You're not moving forward anymore. You're not working through your goals. If you stay in situations like that, you're actively participating in the own death of your dreams, your goals, your inspiration. Like you're actively contributing to holding yourself back when you're afraid, when
Mm-hmm.
you resist change, or you are not conquering your fear about, taking new opportunities and stuff like that. And that's the one thing this book says over and over again. Like conquer that fear. Like you gotta move
Mm-hmm.
forward. Static situations exist all around us, but having them affect us is only our level of fear that allows it to help happen. However, we're looking at it, you got to be willing to step out of it.
And I
Um,
think it's also good. I think it's also good to keep in mind that sometimes there are definitely times when being in a static situation is to your
mhm,
benefit.
mhm.
Sometimes. And to, well, not be afraid of the static situation just as much as you shouldn't be afraid as not being in a static situation.
Mhm. Absolutely, absolutely. And then the last one, impossible dynamics. Now this one's tough. This is those really relationships or situations, people, relationships, situations like jobs or in education or whatever you're doing, irreparably toxic or draining. And irreparably is the word there because we all deal with some toxicity eventually, right? But it could just be situational, it could just be short.
Yeah.
We're talking
More
these,
often than
yeah,
not, they are.
yeah. We're talking this absolutely horrible boss who like does nothing but nitpick on you and set you up and just embarrass you and ridicule you and make you feel small all the time. Nobody needs that. Quit. Get another job. Like even
Ain't nobody
temporary.
got time for that.
Ain't nobody got time. Like that's damaging to you. That's when you here's how you understand a toxic situation is irreparable. When you see that it's actually affecting how you react and how you feel about things yourself. It's contaminating you in some way. It's interfering drastically with you, your mood, your energy, your self-confidence,
Who
your
you are as a person.
mm-hmm. Then that is the impossible part of irreparable toxic situations. When you are being so controlled by the outer situation without even doing anything, like you just walk into the room and you see the boss and you tense up and you get ready for the barrage. Now you know this is not for you. Like you're actually you're doing things you don't want to intentionally do. You're not actively doing what you want to do. You're reacting to the situation all the time in an uncontrolled manner. You don't have any. That's when you know toxic and probably irreparable, not something that can be fixed.
Mm.
And and it's a simple answer. Close the door. You
It
remove
is one
yourself.
of the hardest. It's one of the and let
It's hard.
let's not downplay it. In it it is in it from the outside looking in. It is always a very simple answer.
Hmm.
However, when you're in the inside looking at the situation, often the real answer is almost insurmountable.
It's hard, but you have to take control of the situation. You know, or
Mm.
it's not always easy to close the door on something like that. We want to, especially if you're talking, not only in work environments or social environments like that, but even in personal relationships. I guess impossible dynamics, it's easier to explain it on a personal one-to-one term. Like,
Mm.
we've all had that relationship. At least I think it's quite popular that we've all had that relationship with, no matter how much you cared about somebody, no matter how much the good times were good, the bad times were so bad that it took forever to recover from, and they were always in the back of your head and always nagging, and they always happened. That's the key. They
Mm-hmm.
always happened over the same thing, the same trigger. I'm going to use something simple here. It's cheating. Okay,
Yes.
they're the best partner in the world. You like the same movies, you enjoy dinners together, you have so much fun all the time together. You're getting along great. Everything's wonderful. You think they're perfect for you. But there's that one thing. Like they just can't keep it in their pants. You're always dealing with the fact that they're stepping out on you, and it gets you, it makes you feel small, makes you feel less. If I mean that's if you have an issue with it. There are relationships where people don't. But I'm just talking about like if you do. Okay. And it just they
Exactly.
say, I'm sorry, it'll never happen again, only after you discover it, right? So there's
It's
the
always
betrayal.
after. It's
Right,
never
right.
before. They
It's
never
never
have the balls to actually be like, "Hey," it, and they never seem to want to talk about it before the relationship really gets anywhere.
mm-mm.
It's always a surprise. I've been seeing like three other people behind your back, and it's
Yeah.
like, oh, okay.
And then it's like you've got to deal with it, right? Like you've
Yeah,
got to
and
deal
then
with
it's your problem, and they make it
it.
your problem, and you go, wait, hang on a second, this isn't
Mm-hmm.
my issue.
It's just like, and so then you got to do, and you got to realize that, okay, so the first time, say you forgive them and you talk to them, like you have the conversation, you go, Rekkr, this is my issue. Like I have, it's trust and loyalty. I want a monogamous relationship. I want to understand that it's just the two of us. And you're like, yeah, it'll never happen again. It was a
Yeah,
one time
yeah,
thing. We weren't that serious at the time. Like I was having doubts, so I went and tried to figure it out. I don't know how doubts, pulling it out with somebody else gets rid of any doubts.
exactly.
But so you try to explain it away, and I go,
Yeah,
okay, Rekkr, and you're like, I want to make this work. Let's now that we're on the same page, let's go forward, right? And then
yep,
everything's fine for a
and then
while, and then you know
it happens again
it
and
happens
again
again. You get the
and
anonymous
again.
text from somebody or whatever, and
Yep.
you start to realize that this is a pattern that's not going to change. So you either have
Mm,
to deal with the fact that you are sharing his libido with the rest of the world, and that the good parts outweigh that, and you don't really have an issue with it, or you don't. You're like,
mm,
nope, can't deal with it, not gonna have it, not for me. You gotta make a choice. That's hard because like
it
that's
is.
really hard. Because now it's your here's what really gets you. When it comes to irreparable, toxic, or draining relationships, when you make the move to make the change, it's all your fault. It's all
Yep,
your fault.
yep,
That person cheated on you 10 times, but when you leave
and
them
and
hanging and they got
somehow,
to move out and get their own apartment, or you're no longer
yep,
then it's all your fault. You ruined their life.
some,
Like
yep,
how
somehow
dare
it's
you?
yeah,
How dare you have an issue with
exactly,
my betrayal and lying to your face and like exposing you to STDs? Like how dare you?
exactly.
It's ridiculous. But you have to be willing. So impossible dynamics for me is one of the hardest ones to deal with because
Mm,
we really hesitate to make that move. We know what we're going to do. First of all, there's all the good stuff, and you feel like you're taking that away from yourself, and you are. You know,
mm,
you're closing the door because here's the thing: you can't leave that door open. It has to be shut. No, shut completely. You
yep,
don't go back. There's no like third, fourth, fifth try. There's no like, I'll quit the job and they'll beg me to come back and they'll throw. Here's the thing: boss ridicules you constantly, putting you down, embarrasses you in public, but you're a key player. He's just a bad, awful boss. Okay. You decide to leave, you take another offer. Okay. He counters that offer with another $25,000. Okay. Are you going to, for the money, put yourself back in that situation? That money isn't going to change the situation.
nope,
That money is not going to make him be a better boss. It's not going to stop him from ridiculing you and making you feel small, right? Just like if you take that person back who keeps cheating on you, they're not going to stop. You take them back. It's not like the situation is going to change. They're still going to do it. They're just going to be better at it. You're going to find out less often.
Exactly.
They're going to be a little more crafty about it.
Mm,
It it's just it's a hard thing to deal with,
it
but
is.
you got to recognize the situation for what it is. It's never going to change. Then you have to decide if you can deal with it if it never changes. And if you
Mm-hmm.
can't, you got to shut that door entirely, just for your
Yes.
own well-being and preservation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. But it's hard. It's very
It
hard.
is.
I love your example of Queen Elizabeth on this. She was always surrounded by intrigue, family members trying to interfere, even love interests that tried to control her. And she,
Mm-hmm.
once you cross that line with her, she shut the door. She shut the door. She would
Yep.
walk away from all of that stuff when she found it was very damaging to her, and she
Or
didn't care.
brought the
She took
axe
the
down.
Yep, she or killed them. Yes. And you know what? Well, she never really killed people without guilt, like without understanding the enormity of the situation. It was usually the only option she had.
Yes.
She did not just randomly go around. She wasn't one of those kind of monarchs. She didn't just do
No.
that. But um, no, you didn't, Maggie. We got well for the 2 hour mark. We got like 15 more minutes to go. This one's one of our longer ones. Welcome, and Mousy too. Um, but let me just go back. I think that covers that one. Do you have anything else on
Yes.
impossible dynamics? I mean, now that we've talked about the screamers and
Um.
cheaters.
I think that's good. I think we've covered that pretty well.
Hey, so because I want to get to the fun part for the last 15 minutes. Do you mind if I read
Mm.
the every chapter gives us the reversal of perspective, trying to put us on our heels about how we're looking at what it is with aggression. And so I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to take it like I've done with every other chapter right from the book. The problem with confrontational moments and why we often seek to avoid them is that they turn up a lot of unpleasant emotions. We feel personally aggrieved that someone is trying to hurt us or harm us. It makes us wonder about ourselves and we feel insecure. Did we deserve this in some way? If we go through a few of these unpleasant moments, we become skittish. But this is really a problem of perception. In our own inner turmoil, we tend to exaggerate negative intentions of our opponents. In general, we take conflicts far too personally, like Rekkr said in the beginning. People have problems and traumas that they carry with them from their childhood. Most often, when they do something to harm or block us, it really is not directed at us personally. It comes from some unfinished business from their past or deep insecurities. We happen to cross their path at the wrong moment. It is essential that you develop the reverse perspective. Life naturally involves conflicting interests. People have their own issues, their own agendas, and they collide with ours. Instead of taking this personally or concerning yourself with people's intentions, you must work to protect and advance yourself in this competitive game, this bloody arena. Focus your attention on their maneuvers and how to deflect them. When you have to resort to something that isn't conventionally moral, it is just another maneuver you are executing in the game. Nothing to feel guilty about. You accept human nature and the idea that people will resort to aggression. This calm, detached perspective will make it that much easier to design the perfect strategy for blunting their aggression. With your emotions unscathed by these battles, you will grow accustomed to them and will even take some pleasure in fighting them well, knowing when to recognize them. You know. And so here is the last quote before we get to our lovely examples. In the ring, Our opponents can gouge us with their nails or butt us with their heads and leave a bruise. But we don't denounce them for it or get upset with them or regard them from then on as violent types. We just keep an eye on them, not out of hatred or suspicion, just keeping a friendly distance. We need to do that in other areas. We need to excuse what our sparring partners do and just keep our distance without suspicion or hatred. Marcus Aurelius. I'm not so sure about it, but it is a good plan to just keep an eye on them. We're all good
Yeah.
and bad, is what he means. You can't judge them for what they do, knowing that you need to be prepared to do it too in a situation, right?
Yep. No one
Yeah.
is ever simply one thing.
Hmm. Okay. Here you go. I put the wrappers up first for you. It's like this is the fun part, trying to relate it to people of stature or history or that common names that we know. And to we're gonna focus on their badness. Yes, people, we're gonna talk about they're bad. They're all bad in some way.
Mm-hmm.
In a good way. They're bad in a good way, would you say? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, they are.
All right. Why don't we
Um.
do the one in one? You take the top and I'll take the bottom because there's two on every
Okay.
one. All right.
So with Eminem, his lyrical assault as a career strategy, he is just lyrically he I think we can all agree he's kind of changed the way that poetry and rhymes have been done now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So Eminem turned controversy into currency, using aggression, dark humor, and raw honesty to bulldoze his way into the mainstream. When he was underestimated as a white rapper, he came harder than anyone lyrically, dismantling rivals, mocking critics, and using alter egos as weapons. His badness was calculated chaos with razor sharp wit, a full frontal offensive on hip hop norms and social taboos that demanded attention and respect.
Mm-hmm. That was an appropriate use of badness in the situation. He came across what are the situations here? Unjust situation. He was white in this world, and it wasn't really fitting in there. He was being judged just for being white. Nobody
I
was looking
mean,
at his talent. He was
when
excluded, right?
yeah, yeah, and when the only model that you've got to look up to was Vanilla Ice. Uh,
Oh, damn! Now that's an unjust situation. This damn, damn.
Vanilla Ice is an entirely different story.
Jesus, that's not a story. That's a punchline. That's a joke.
Yeah.
It's not even a story. Okay. So I thought that was a good example. Another one is Tupac Shakur, who also as a rapper, but he revolutionized fire with artistic precision. A little bit different. He wielded badness with purpose, like a poet, a warrior with a political voice wrapped in one volatile package. Whether in his interviews, lyrics, or street confrontations, he refused to play it safe. He went there. He embraced his contradictions, challenging the system while living within it, turning pain into firepower. His defiance wasn't reckless, though. It was a conscious rejection of fear, giving voice to anger, injustice, and resilience in a way that still echoes worldwide. We all still go to the Tupac songs, don't we? We all still go to those messages. They were loud. They were he rang the bell, so to speak, for a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was him being bad. That was him conquering fear and putting his badness out there. He didn't care who got pissed off about what he did. He didn't care that they were saying, "Hey, you're not going to make money with a record about that." Dude. He just did it anyway. And just yeah, still known for it today. Okay. Uh, Now we got little political houses here.
Mm-hmm.
More
So
examples.
Barack Obama, cool assertiveness in hostile environments. Obama rarely raised his voice, but he dominated with calm, measured control
Hmm.
in the face of constant opposition. Whether shutting down hecklers mid speech or bypassing obstructions with executive action, he used composure as power. His ability to project grace while making cold, calculated moves showed that badness can be silent, but no less effective.
Because when you think of Barack Obama, nobody thinks bad, but man, it was badass some of the stuff he did behind the scenes. He
Yeah,
literally, it really was.
he
Yeah.
to bring a good an example of his dichotomy. I believe. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but he he has dropped the most bombs out of every president, right?
In Afghanistan, yes, he did
Yeah,
actually, but that was a cold,
but
calculated
that
war. He
was
needed to. Yeah, it was
it was
necessary.
necessary. It was
But
a
he needed to do
necessary
it.
move. Yeah.
That shows strength in wanting to be bad. Like he knows he's going to be judged for it, but he's going to be bad. But he
Mm,
calculated risk. He knew it was necessary. He was willing to take that chance. Uh,
exactly.
and he was real cool about it. He doesn't get mad. He doesn't get like when they say cool assertiveness in hostile environments. Like you can't get any more hostile than being a black president in America. The first one,
The
you can't
first.
the first, okay? That's not like, and I don't mean that like snide. I mean that seriously. Talk about a
Yeah.
hostile situation. But
Yeah.
was the man was unflappable. No scandals. Stuck to his moral conduct. Cool, cool, cool. You couldn't get under. If you did get under his skin, you never knew it. No
Yep.
way did he show you. He cool dominance.
I
He did.
I mean, isn't it normal for people to point to him as one of like an example of a good president?
It is for me. I think he was one of the best. Not for what he couldn't get done, but what he did get done under the circumstances. You know,
Mm,
uh, and knowing the whole. If you take the whole situation into the context of it, then absolutely one of the best. His actual inaugural speech, I printed it out and passed it out to all my nieces and nephews and my grandkids. It was amazing. He's literal. He's great with words. He's cool under pressure. He's calm. He's got dignity. No scandals. I mean, if you want a representative of your country, isn't that what you want? You know?
exactly.
Yes, yes, I do want things done, and I want fiery situations addressed. But you don't want to be the controversial figure if you're supposed to get along with the rest of the world. And I think that he epitomized our strength, our quiet strength. Yes, we had all the weaponry. Yes, we had all the money. Yes, we have power. But Barack Obama represented it in a very calm, cool, confident
Stoic
way.
strength.
Stoic strength. There you go. I'd rather have that. But
Hmm.
hey, different strokes for different folks. Then we got
Exactly.
Lincoln. Lincoln was uncompromising when it mattered most. If we talk about slavery, he was not budging at all. Lincoln's early image was mild, but he unleashed decisive aggression when the Union was on the line. From suspending habeas corpus to pushing through the Emancipation Proclamation during wartime, he was willing to break the norms and take heat to preserve the bigger mission. His leadership proved that moral clarity sometimes demands ruthless execution. He was badass with that. He just said, nope, it's not going to happen. This is happening. He said, he was like, cry louder about having to not have slaves. Cry louder. I don't care. This
Exactly.
is happening. This is happening. You know, unrelentless. Yeah. Well,
Hmm.
now we get to royalty.
Yes. Queen Elizabeth I, grace with a steel core. Surrounded by enemies, doubters, Elizabeth ruled through calculated charm and icy resolve. She kept powerful men in check, weaponized her unmarried status politically, and eliminated rivals where needed. She was never overtly cruel, but her reign was a masterclass in elegance and elegant dominance. Badness delivered with a velvet glove.
Oh, I like that line.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, yeah, Grace with a steel core. She is,
Now,
and you keep using that example, and
mm,
I keep going back to how much I admired her as a figurehead, and how much I loved that part of history and reading it, and all of the
mm,
melodramas around it, and all the documentaries around it. Uh, she was a powerhouse, absolutely. And one that we forget often, it's not really sticking out as much in his history, at least here in America, probably in European countries more, was Catherine the Great. Her
yes.
ambition was raw without apology. Ambition without apology, absolutely. She seized power in a coup and ruled Russia with a sharp intellect and an iron hand. And if you don't remember history, she was married to Peter the Great, and she actually couped it from her own husband, who was known to be a passive aggressive jerk. Okay, she just went behind his back and took it off. She silenced enemies, modernized an empire, and didn't hesitate to use manipulation or force to secure her vision. Her reign was a blueprint for powerful, unapologetic leadership in a hostile world. She knew everybody was against her. She was only a woman. She was married to the man. She didn't like the way the man was doing it. She did it her way. She literally took it all over. She Unbelievable at that time what she was able to accomplish, but it wasn't straightforward. She did it all behind the scenes with manipulation and deals and sabotage. You, she was bad. She was bad, but she got it
Mm-hmm.
done. She got it done. And some will say that Russia was better for it, that
Yeah.
Peter was known to be very emotional, and also, one of those like off with their heads because the strawberries weren't ripe enough, or but not owning it. Like he never wanted to own his badness. He was like he was weak about it, and temperamental and irrational at times. Not really good qualities for a leader. So, mm,
No, definitely not.
you know. Uh,
Okay.
these are a little
Another.
these are a little reversed, but go for it.
Yeah. These are a little bit dramatic in their differences.
I can't believe it.
Um.
We had okay.
So
Sorry,
another
not
rapper,
sorry.
Little Kim, feminine power as weaponized rebellion. Little Kim crashed into a male-dominated rap world by owning her sexuality and rapping harder than her male peers. Her lyrics were explicit, her image aggressive, and it wasn't for shock value alone. She turned what was supposed to shame her into armor, forcing the industry to deal with her on her own terms.
This was a time when all of the rappers wanted to bring like hot, sexy girls and like demoralize them in the rap songs and on screens and in the videos. And to be a
Mm-hmm.
female rapper at that time, you have to understand it was rough. Like you were expected to just
It
take it.
still is.
You were expected to just take it, right? It didn't matter. Like
Mm-hmm.
if you want to be here, this is the price you got to pay. She actually used that all against him. She turned it her way. Like when they say that she rapped harder than the rappers, she was aggressive. Like you listen to some of those songs that she did it really rough. Um, I don't know. I'm a fan. I think that she made her mark. And
Mm-hmm.
she did. But then we talk about Putin. Nobody wants to talk about Putin, but we're going to talk about Putin. Because when it comes to badness, his cold strategy and calculated intimidation is textbook. Okay, you can't talk aggression and badness in dealing with situations without bringing Putin in as an example, because he exemplifies the darkest side of strategic badness when it gets to be too much, almost psychological warfare, manipulation, and power projection, from controlling media narratives, you know, to calculated military moves. He operates with zero sentiment and total strategic focus, showing how fear, if wielded coldly, can be a geopolitical weapon. He has no fear, and he uses fear to intimidate everybody else. He controls
Mm-hmm.
voices. He takes away your voice. He takes away your choice. Um, This is the reason I grabbed this one is not only does it show you with something we all understand how he does it, but also that's the dark side of it. That's also an example of being known for just going too far. Being known is only that. Nobody recognizes the gentler sides of Putin.
Mm.
No one recognizes any other side to Putin, do you?
Nope.
This is all we know of the man. His movements, his actions, everything he does is like this. And that's what we got to try to avoid. This example is don't be like Putin. You can be like Putin on a temporary basis to solve a situation. Don't make it your lifelong mission, because then you end up like Putin.
More often than not, you'll end up worse than Putin. Very, very,
Mm-hmm.
very rarely will you
Mm-hmm.
ever truly succeed in life by taking a strategy like Putin.
Right. And uh, basically, he is so successful because there's no other option. I mean, if someone with as much power goes against it, I think just based on how he does it, he could lose, you
Mm-hmm.
know, from popular perception. We don't know a lot about Russia. That's true. We're just using this as an example as bad needs to conquer situations. You know. Well, okay. Here we go. Then we got two more political figures.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a good one for you. You're gonna go.
I, Vladimir Zelensky. Wait, no.
Oh, you did good. Yes, that's exactly it.
Yes, I did. Yay! I've been trying that. I hope you're proud of me. I've been practicing that.
I'm very proud of you. Yeah.
um, moral boldness under fire. A former comedian turned war leader, Zelensky shocked the world by refusing to flee during Russia's invasion. Instead, he turned vulnerability into strength, broadcasting from Kiev,
Mm-hmm.
rallying support, and using global media to flip the narrative. His courage is a form of righteous badness, defiance in defense of freedom.
Right. So he wields his badness in a different way. I thought it was interesting to find out he was a comedian before. You know.
It is actually impressive that someone who was previously in a more comical role uh, should get into a position of power. As most people know, generally, if you've got some kind of I, fallibility, for lack of a better
Hmm.
word,
Exactly.
um, something that could be made fun of,
Hmm.
um, generally any any aspirations of moving into a political situation gets dashed entirely. And I'm sure everyone can actually think of a politician here or there that pretty much has had some kind of smear campaign on them because of some silly little comment that they may have made years ago or something that they've done.
Hmm. Uh, yep. Listen, I do need to address something, and I'm going to do it very politely. This is not a political stream in regards to anything that's going on in any country. We are not saying anything negative about Russia or Ukraine or anything like that. I advise that you take yourself out of the chat and find a political conversation elsewhere that we are not willing to have. We are not saying what you're saying that you're saying. You're not listening. We used it as an example of wielding power and being willing to accept aggression as an appropriate message uh, in answer to certain situations. And that's it. And you know what? That's it. You don't deserve a voice when you won't listen, sir. Sorry. And just so you know, I block very few people. Like you really earned it though. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Rekkr, but
Sorry about what? I don't know what you're talking about. I don't even know
oh,
who we are talking about.
oh,
Was
there was
what was
somebody in one of the chats that was trying to get us into a political battle between Ukraine and Russia, was using really bad language, in referring to people as killers and stuff like that. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Well,
So
he's not there anymore, so I don't know anything about him.
you don't know. Okay, so
Yeah.
Margaret Thatcher, yay!
Yeah.
Iron resolve in a man's world. I love this one. Dubbed the Iron Lady, Thatcher didn't soften to fit in. She doubled down on her principles, even when unpopular. From breaking unions to standing firm in war, she weaponized decisiveness, proving that toughness wasn't just tolerated from women, it could rule nations. Her legacy is one of unyielding will under pressure. She bullied her way into all of it. Like, nope, nope, nope. She did. She didn't care.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't care that they thought that she was emotional, or they put her down as a woman. They said, "Oh yeah," she didn't care. She wielded it all. She used it against them. She was like, "Fine," but she was tough. She addressed it not from a soft side, like Queen Elizabeth the First was willing to be soft, right? Willing to acknowledge her femininity and used it against him. Thatcher just proved in a man's world she could be more aggressive than the average man. That's what she did. She said, "Oh,
Mm-hmm.
I need to be like you. Let me show you how I could be more like you than you. Like, I'll show you how it's done." That's what Thatcher did. She said,
Exactly.
"Well, if you won't judge me as the woman that I am, let me show you that I will best you as a man." Because she really had a tough attitude. She was more bullish, pragmatic, stubborn than most men politicians. She really was. She
Mm-hmm.
she was unrelenting. But that's it. That's our. I think that's all of our examples for the day. I think we're done. We went long. We went
Mm-hmm.
really long. Yeah.
I hope
Um.
people enjoyed it though.
mm. I hope so. Oops,
Mm.
we're not on the right thing. There we go. I should have did that first. There we go. But I like going over the examples. Those were fun. Like, I
mm.
will admit, in the beginning, I had a hard time with this chapter because you know me, I try to find balance. I don't want to be too aggressive, and I don't want to be weak. I don't want to be
Exactly.
a wallflower. Like, I do believe that balance is the key to all of it. But there is something to acknowledging when being aggressive, conscious aggression is necessary in certain situations, and to protect ourselves from
Exactly.
being a victim and from actually falling to the fear. It's part of
Mm-hmm.
conquering fear, which this whole series, is addressing. Conquering that fear, um, to do what's necessary that we have to. You know,
Yep.
well,
And that is
uh,
true.
yeah, I look forward to the next one. Yeah.
Me too. And I hope
It,
people can use what we've said in their own life just to get,
mm-hmm, a
make
little
their
bit.
day a little bit better.
There's a little bit there for everybody, I think. If you had to
Mm-hmm.
say one thing about this chapter that surprised you or really resonated with you, like,
Um, I think one thing that I found the most fascinating about this chapter is that it it gives you permission. It sort of gives you permission to uh how do I put it, to actually be okay with being what really should be described as being assertive, and
mm-hmm,
actually pushing for your own benefit
mm-hmm,
in in um in a in in a, I guess you could say, in a society that sort of in many cases tries to keep you stagnant and
mm-hmm.
keep you um I quote unquote morally good, when in reality it's not that simple.
No, we're
It's
all
not black and white.
right. Exactly. There's good and bad in everybody. There's aggressive and tenderness. There's weight, and it just goes to situations too. There is a best way to deal with everything. Then there's the best way for you, right?
Hmm.
Then I think that's what this book in general helps us focus on is that we have to be our own best advocate. There is nobody else. We can't depend on anyone else but ourselves for what we want to achieve, and how to get forward with it. So we have to make
Mm.
these decisions on a personal basis for ourselves, each time, on how much aggression to use it, when to be assertive. But when you are assertive, like you said, not to be apologetic about it, because society makes us feel apologetic about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if we're actually getting something, that means we're taking something away from somebody else. Not necessarily so. They're all in the same game. We're all in the same world. We're all in the same situation. You know,
We
it,
we both we both 100% deserve e- everything, and at the same time 100% do not deserve
mhm.
anything.
Exactly. Like, you and I go for the same job. One of us gets it. Say I get it. Like, it, because I know you, I might be sad that you didn't get the job, but I'm not going to apologize for getting it. Like, I got it
No.
because I deserve it and I wanted it,
Yep.
and that's it. And you should be the same.
Exactly.
Like, you got it, you won out. I'll do better next time. Like, you won't get the
Exactly.
next one because I'll beat you out of the next one. Yes, like,
Use
right?
it.
You know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the
Mhm.
best thing. Use whatever failing that may have occurred as motivation.
Mhm. That's the
That,
water thing. Yeah.
yeah.
It's like, be like water. You could be gracious to the person that just beat you out, and you can take a lesson on why maybe you didn't get the job. Like, what was it
Mm.
that made them pick me over you? Maybe it was an unjust
Exactly.
situation, like a DEI thing. Maybe it was because I was a woman. And then you have to deal
Mm.
with that. And then you have to aggressively go to HR and go, my resume is better. Fire the B. She's just a B. She's not more qualified than me. You see what I mean?
Exactly.
Exactly. You don't have to, but it's not personal, right? It's all
Mm.
about learning to deal with the situations. Yeah. Well,
Yes.
all right. On that, I think we'll wrap it up. This was a good one. I was worried about this one, and this is the longest one yet. Like, we really,
I
this was.
actually really like this format. How did everyone? I guess leave a comment down below on how
Mhm.
whether or not you liked this kind of format. I actually really think we did well with this one.
I think so too. I love the examples at the end because it makes it more real when you can put people
Mm.
in situations in it on how they did it, and I like that part. Plus, it was fun. A little bit of fun. But on that, we'll see everybody next week.
See you all later.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
Have a good one.